Okay, so they end chapter 3 just by defining a few things. So hopefully we can kind of do it all in one video. I think there's just about 3 concepts in a row. So elasticity is actually fairly important. And we did define elasticity, I think, in chapter 2, and we'll define it again in chapter 4 or 5. I don't remember what chapter, but every single concept, I can admit it's the same with elasticity. It's very, very easy. If I start talking about it, it takes 5, 10 minutes. We don't want to do that now, but as easy as it is, we all kind of forget each little concept the next day. But of course, they have equals one, less than one, greater than one. They have that and only that concept. We don't care about that here. But once it's important, we will do that again, discuss exactly what the elasticity means. It's just never clear, but it's the effect on y. It's the effect on the vertical. You have one input or several. If there's several inputs, it's a multivariable function, a derivative with respect to only one input. But if you have several inputs, then you're going to have the elasticity with respect to each input. Yeah, but blah, blah, blah. The elasticity is just how what do we call that? Not the rate or anything. We understand it. We have difficulty putting it into words, but how sensitive y is to a change in x, whether y changes just a little bit or a lot, with a small change in x. Yeah, that's what the elasticity is. So already I'm kind of going in there and it's taking a while. We don't need all that. They just want us to define this elasticity of supply. So we kind of read through that, but they just give us that right there. We don't have to go much into the derision of this. Yeah, I know we don't write it this way, but every elasticity, I think, that microecon and other books, yeah, I think elasticity is always, I'm just kind of speaking my mind here. Yeah, with all the crazy symbols, let's not forget the simplicity of it. If you have X, we don't just instantaneously understand the concept. We have to go through the derivation, which we're not going to do. But if you take the derivative, yeah, and then multiply it by the X value divided by the entire function, yeah, if you do that, then you get the elasticity. So that's all that's going to be. If it's multivariable, this one here is basically, that is the derivative. We'll call it a partial derivative of y with respect to price. So this is price, therefore times price divided by, y is a function of price. The y, of course, just equaling q of price. So y is actually q, but they define that there is elasticity of supply, which we will be using later. They make it more fancy, but it's always that simple concept in chapter 4 or 5. Okay, so we can kind of discuss this a little bit. Just the first statement here has meaning to me. It's always kind of hard in our head to understand producer surplus and many other very simple things. Yeah, but they're going to say it in the end. But the upper triangle, yeah, the upper triangle in a lot of problems in chapter 5. This is still chapter 3, but throughout the entire book, producer surplus is actually a very important concept. It's going to come in chapter 5. It's going to come along in many chapters after chapter 3. And we understand it or we don't. If we don't understand producer surplus, it is always just going to be the shading above. We're going to see other graphs later. We don't do it now. Uh, Sometimes I forget the terminology along the way, but the dead weight loss has nothing to do with this. That's chapter 5, but that's going to come into play also. But that upper triangle there is always going to be reflective of the producer surplus. Okay, so the producer surplus of a firm producing output Q is the variable profit, yeah, of the firm at this output. So that shaded area is supposed to be that one sentence. And then we can kind of read on from there. Consider the firm supply curve in figure 3.23a. That's going to be A and B there. Firm and market. Remember, market is always just add all the Q's. Okay, so we don't always label it because it's from now on, it's always up to us to know. Monopoly comes later. That's different. we're not in monopoly. But if we're in the complete, we don't call it opposite. If we're in the complete opposite of monopoly, it's called perfect competition. The demand curve, we say 3, we say the demand or the price is going to equal the derivative of the cost function, the marginal cost. So this thing is always 2. It's always the price as a function of quantity, and the price is always the marginal cost. Yeah. So I'm just kind of talking about it as I go here. Yeah, that not like a reoccurring theme. We can never lose that, or we can't do the math problems. So they go in there and they just define the upper triangle there as the producer surplus. So that's basically concept 2. And then this right here, this is rather difficult, I think. Competitive input demand. They end the chapter with this. In a perfectly competitive market, output is sold at a constant price and each input is purchased at a constant price. We can write the firm's profit as a function of its inputs. So profit, we're just kind of seeing what concept they're illustrating. They're always just illustrating some sort of a concept here. Yeah, so profit, as we know, is revenue minus cost. Revenue is PQ. So they're calling the cost that. We know what the variable cost is. Yeah, the variable cost as a function of Q equals WL plus RK. Yeah, those have Q's in them. Those are functions of quantity right there. And then the actual cost will be the variable cost plus the fixed cost. It takes too long to really define these things well. Yeah, we would really have to go way back to the beginning of this chapter. So we've kind of lost the concepts by now. But I see the fixed cost, I see the variable cost. Q is always going to be a function of both L and K. Yeah, the entire thing is a function of L and K. Okay, so what they want us to do, remember the MPL and the MPK. Those are the derivatives of quantity with respect to L and the derivative of quantity with respect to K. Hopefully it's obvious, but they took the partial of that entire thing. Yeah, what is the partial of that? The fixed is a number which is going to go away. If it's with respect to L, yeah, this whole thing goes away. If it's with respect to K, yeah, this whole thing goes away. Yeah, so we're not doing the whole derivation, but they take the partial of that. You see these things right here, that and that is the MPL and the MPK. So kind of, we're not saying they took the derivative of that. That concept is 100% in there and it's obvious. But what we're saying is they took the partial derivative of the entire profit function. So first order condition, take the first derivative with respect to L, set it equal to 0. Take the second derivative with respect to L, set it equal to 0. And then we do know that those are MPL and MPK, not the P, but just those things there. So you can rewrite the thing like that. And they just want us to note those two conditions there. Yeah, and then these things here are from earlier in the chapter. Okay, so they're just kind of doing a mathematical fact here. Yeah, so next video, we are going to start chapter 4, consumption choices. Okay, and we can kind of read through this concept a little bit more closely. The end result is basically right here. And that now we jump into chapter 4.